Hey friends, good to see you. Today we're looking at the dumbest reasons people ended up in jail and how shockingly avoidable most of them were.
Some people go to jail for crimes. Others go because common sense filed for early retirement. 1. The man who stole his own car. Imagine walking out of a grocery store, spotting your car being towed, and deciding, you know what? I'm not letting this happen. That's exactly what one man in Florida did. He jumped into the tow truck, unhooked his own car, and drove off triumphantly, straight to jail. The twist? The car was legally impounded due to unpaid tickets, meaning the tow company actually owned it at that point. When police caught up, the man proudly explained he couldn't have stolen something that already belonged to him. The officer, probably fighting back laughter, explained that, yes, you can absolutely steal your own car if you're taking it from someone who legally possesses it. The man's final argument? But I had the keys. The judge later called it one of the most confident displays of ignorance he'd ever seen. The moral of the story: just because your name's on the registration doesn't mean you can perform a live-action repossession stunt. 2. The woman who called 911 over chicken nuggets. Some people call 911 for emergencies. Others call because their drive-through order is wrong. A woman in Ohio decided that being shorted 4 chicken nuggets was a matter for law enforcement. After McDonald's ran out of McNuggets and refused to refund her, she called 911 3 times to report robbery. Officers arrived expecting a serious crime and found an irate customer yelling about poultry injustice. She was arrested for misusing emergency services, but the local police department later admitted it was one of their funniest calls ever. Her defense in court? They stole my money and my nuggets. The judge disagreed, sentencing her to community service, probably wishing he could sentence her to a lifetime ban from drive-thrus instead. It's a perfect example of American priorities. When life takes your nuggets, some people take it personally. Very, very personally. 3. The guy who tried to bribe police with Tacos, Texas, home of cowboy hats, big trucks, and apparently taco-based diplomacy. A man pulled over for drunk driving decided his best shot at avoiding arrest wasn't honesty, it was lunch. Slurring his words, he offered the officer a lifetime supply of tacos if he could just forget this whole thing. The officer, keeping a straight face that deserves an Oscar, politely declined. The man doubled down, adding a promise to throw in the salsa. Unsurprisingly, bribing an officer with Mexican food didn't go well. He was arrested for both DUI and attempted bribery. During the trial, his lawyer argued it wasn't a bribe, but a friendly gesture. The court disagreed. The arrest report later noted the tacos smelled great, but justice cannot be served with guacamole. So yes, he went to jail, but at least he proved one thing. In Texas, you can't buy freedom, not even with extra cheese and a side of hot sauce. 4. The man arrested for paying. Too much in coins. In Vermont, a man decided to settle a $200 utility bill entirely in pennies, 20,000 of them. He arrived at City Hall with buckets of change and a smug grin, ready to make a statement about government greed. Unfortunately, dumping industrial-sized barrels of coins onto a clerk's desk isn't considered a patriotic act. It's considered disorderly conduct. The clerk called the police after the man refused to leave until every penny was counted. When officers arrived, he tried to explain it was his constitutional right to pay in legal tender. The officer calmly replied, "Sir, it's also our constitutional right to arrest you for blocking a government office." The man spent the night in jail and later tried to sue the city for disrespecting currency. The lawsuit was thrown out, but he did earn local fame as Penny Guy. He might have lost the case, but he won the title of the pettiest taxpayer in Vermont history, and that's worth at least a nickel of pride. Woo. The tourist who took a selfie with evidence. Nothing says "arrest me" like posting your own crime on the internet. A tourist in Rome decided to carve his initials into the Colosseum wall, then proudly snap a selfie beside the damage. He uploaded it to Instagram with the caption, "Making history." Unfortunately for him, Italian police also use Instagram. They tracked him down at his hotel within hours. When arrested, he claimed it was just a little scratch. The fine? Over $20,000. The jail time? 2 weeks. The irony? His Instagram followers doubled overnight. The judge called it a crime against culture, which sounds dramatic until you realize the Colosseum is 2,000 years old and still can't defend itself from dumb tourists. The man later apologized and said he thought the ancient monument was already broken. Technically true, but not the kind of logic that wins sympathy in court. Moral of the story: selfies fade, criminal records don't. 6. The guy who robbed a store with a banana. In South Carolina, a man walked into a convenience store with a hand hidden inside his jacket, pretending it was a gun. He demanded cash, and the terrified clerk handed it over. The man ran, but police caught him 2 blocks away after noticing something oddly yellow sticking out of his coat. His weapon was a banana. During his arrest, the man insisted he wasn't robbing anyone. He was just joking. The officers, unamused, charged him with armed robbery anyway. When asked why he didn't just eat the banana, he said, "I needed potassium for courage." In court, the prosecutor couldn't resist asking whether he planned to peel out of the scene. The judge sentenced him to 10 months, proving once again that you can't commit serious crimes with breakfast food. On the bright side, he probably got plenty of fruit in jail, minus the punchlines. 7. The man who broke into jail to hang out with friends. Most people spend their lives trying to stay out of prison. Not this guy. In Kansas, a man missed his incarcerated buddies so much that he literally broke into jail to visit them. He scaled the outer fence with a bag of cigarettes and snacks, like some sort of criminal Santa Claus. Unfortunately, he didn't plan an exit strategy and got stuck inside the perimeter. Guards found him sitting calmly, waiting to be checked in. When questioned, he said, "I figured it'd be easier than visiting hours." Technically, he wasn't wrong, but it also got him charged with trespassing, vandalism, and possession. His new cellmates? The same friends he came to visit, they reportedly found the whole situation hilarious. The sheriff called it a touching display of loyalty wrapped in stupidity. And really, that's friendship at its most criminally committed. 8. The woman arrested for not returning a VHS tape. Long before streaming, there was Blockbuster, and apparently a whole generation of fugitives still wanted for overdue rentals. In North Carolina, a woman discovered there was a warrant for her arrest when she applied for a new job. Her crime? Failing to return a VHS tape of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, rented 22 years earlier. The store had closed long ago, but the system never cleared her record. The charge? Felony embezzlement. When police contacted her, she thought it was a prank. It wasn't. She was booked, fingerprinted, and photographed, all for a tape that had likely melted in someone's attic. The case went viral, and the DA eventually dismissed the charge, admitting it was an outdated clerical error. Still, she now holds the unofficial world record for the longest crime spree involving a teen witch and a VCR. Lesson learned: return your rentals or risk being hexed by bureaucracy. 9. The man arrested for using too many emojis. In New York, a man found himself in legal trouble after sending his ex-girlfriend a barrage of text messages filled entirely with emojis, over 2,000 of them. At first glance, it looked harmless: hearts, monkeys, and laughing faces. But things got weird when he started mixing in knife, gun, and coffin emojis. His ex interpreted it as a threat, and police agreed. He was charged with harassment and making terroristic threats, all through emojis. In court, his lawyer argued that pictures of fruit and faces can't be taken seriously. The prosecutor disagreed, saying communication evolves and stupidity evolves with it. The man ended up with probation and a lifetime ban on contacting his ex, digitally or otherwise. The incident sparked a short-lived internet debate. Are emojis the new criminal language? Apparently yes, at least when your love messages look like a Quentin Tarantino storyboard. Lesson: sometimes a peach should just stay a peach. 10. The guy who tried to steal gas. From a police car. Of all the vehicles you could siphon gas from, a marked police cruiser should be dead last. But one man in Alabama missed that memo. In broad daylight, he pulled up behind a patrol car, grabbed a hose, and started sucking out fuel, right in front of the sheriff's office. Officers came outside mid-siphon, and the man froze like a deer caught in the world's dumbest heist. When asked why, he said, "I thought y'all were closed." The cops were kind enough to correct him, with handcuffs. His mugshot, complete with gas stains and regret, went viral. The police department posted it on Facebook with the caption, "Pro tip, we're never closed." The man later told reporters he needed the gas to drive to court for another charge. Ironically, he ended up needing a much longer ride. this time in the back of a police car with a full tank. 11. The man who faked his own arrest for likes. Social media clout can make people do wild things, but this one takes the cake. A YouTuber in California staged his own arrest to prank his followers. He hired friends to dress as cops, handcuff him, and drag him into a fake police car in front of a shopping mall. The performance drew a crowd, and then real police. When officers arrived, they didn't find it funny. They charged him with creating a public disturbance and impersonating law enforcement. The man argued it was performance art. The judge called it performance idiocy. He spent 30 days in jail, ironically getting the real mugshot he always wanted. His follow-up video, "I Went to Jail for Views," got millions of hits, proving that even the justice system can't compete with the dopamine rush of internet fame. Somewhere out there, Andy Warhol is slow clapping in disbelief. 12. The guy who called the cops. On himself. In Ohio, a man dialed 911 to report a drunk driver. Himself. "I'm too drunk to keep driving," he slurred, "so you better come get me." Officers, perhaps thinking it was a prank, tracked his phone and found him pulled over safely on the side of the road, waiting patiently for his arrest. He explained he didn't want to hurt anyone and thought turning himself in was the responsible choice. Technically, it was, but it still earned him a DUI. The arresting officer later said, "It's the most polite criminal I've ever met." The man spent a night in jail, got his license suspended, and gained local fame as the world's most honest drunk. It's rare to see guilt, stupidity, and civic duty collide so perfectly. Somewhere between The Hangover and the headlines, he probably realized there are easier ways to sober up than handcuffs. 13. The woman who stole a kiss. Literally. At an airport in Nevada, a woman was arrested for theft of service after kissing a flight attendant. She wasn't being romantic. She was trying to avoid paying for in-flight snacks. When the attendant told her the chips cost $5, she leaned in, planted a kiss on his cheek, and said, "That should cover it." It didn't. The flight attendant reported her for unwanted contact, and police were waiting when she landed. Her defense? "I thought it was like European tipping." The judge disagreed, handing her a fine and community service. The airline released a statement reminding passengers that affection is not accepted as payment. It was probably the most awkward exchange of currency since someone tried to pay for groceries with exposure. Her friends still call her lip service Linda, which is arguably a harsher punishment than the fine. 14. The man arrested for doing math. In Kansas, a man was handcuffed outside a coffee shop after another customer reported him for writing strange symbols. The symbols were algebra equations. Turns out, the man was a university professor preparing a lecture. Police arrived, questioned him, and quickly realized he wasn't plotting anything except quadratic formulas. He wasn't charged, but the story exploded online as a cautionary tale about math phobia. The professor later joked that it was the first time calculus was considered a public safety threat. The incident led to a small protest by local teachers carrying signs like "Math Lives Matter" and "Don't Divide Us." To his credit, the professor found the whole thing hilarious, though he admitted being frisked for solving equations was an irrational experience. The moral? In America, never look too smart in public. Someone might think you're planning a heist instead of homework. 15. The man who robbed a bank to escape his wife. Finally, meet the Kansas man who proved marriage counseling can only do so much. After years of arguments, he decided the only way to get peace and quiet was to get arrested. So he walked into a bank, handed the teller a note demanding $3,000, and calmly waited in the lobby for police to arrive. He didn't even take the money. In court, he explained that he preferred prison to home. The judge, perhaps sympathizing, gave him 6 months, probably the cheapest divorce in history. His wife told reporters she wasn't surprised, just disappointed it took him so long to figure it out. Somewhere in the world, a couples therapist read that headline and whispered, "Finally, a success story." It's proof that love may be blind, but sometimes it's also legally binding. 16. The man arrested for fighting a bush. In Portland, a man was spotted at 2 a.m. aggressively punching a decorative shrub outside a Starbucks. Witnesses said he was losing badly. When police arrived, he claimed the bush had started it by brushing against his jacket. Officers tried to calm him down, but he yelled, "You don't understand. It's mocking me. He was arrested for public intoxication and criminal mischief after uprooting half the landscaping. At the station, he reportedly asked if he could press charges against the bush. The police report dryly noted, suspect believes vegetation harbors ill intent. Locals now refer to the event as the Battle of Starbucks Greenery. Security footage later surfaced online, confirming what many suspected. The only thing that got hurt that night was his dignity. Moral of the story: if you ever find yourself fighting landscaping, the fight is already over. 17. The woman who stole a live lobster from a restaurant. In Maine, a woman was arrested after trying to smuggle a live lobster out of a seafood restaurant by hiding it in her purse. Security footage showed her carefully lowering the lobster into her bag while whispering, "Don't worry, buddy, I'm saving you." Unfortunately, her rescue mission didn't last long. The lobster began clawing its way out mid-walk. Staff confronted her outside and she shouted, "He's my emotional support lobster." The police were called and she was charged with theft and disorderly conduct. When asked for a statement, she said she couldn't stand watching people eat such majestic sea creatures. Ironically, the lobster was returned safely to the restaurant's tank. Locals nicknamed her the Lobster Liberator, and her mugshot, complete with a tiny claw mark on her cheek, went viral. It's unclear whether she ever went back for dinner, but I'm guessing she's been permanently banned from seafood buffets everywhere. 18. The guy who tried to pay his bail with weed. In Colorado, a man arrested for public intoxication thought he could simplify the process by paying his $500 bail in marijuana. He pulled a bag of weed from his pocket and placed it proudly on the counter like a cowboy in a Western showdown. The deputy didn't even blink before slapping on another charge, drug possession with intent to distribute. The man protested, saying, "It's literally legal here." The officer replied, "Not as currency, genius." He later explained to reporters that he thought weed was worth more than cash these days. The story made national headlines as the first known attempt at a high-interest payment system. His lawyer later joked that his client had confused legalization with capitalism. The man did eventually make bail, with actual money, though his reputation as the bail dispensary probably stuck around a little longer than the smell. 19. The man arrested for shooting his lawnmower. In Alabama, a man grew so furious with his broken riding mower that he decided to execute it. After several failed attempts to start the engine, he went inside, grabbed his shotgun, and fired multiple rounds into the machine, yelling, "You ain't gonna boss me around no more." Neighbors called 911 after hearing what sounded like a domestic dispute between man and machinery. When officers arrived, they found the lawnmower riddled with holes and the man sitting proudly on the porch, beer in hand. He told police the mower had it coming. He was charged with reckless endangerment and possession of a firearm while intoxicated. When the sheriff asked if he regretted it, he said, "No, sir, that mower was evil." His mugshot quickly became a meme captioned, "Justice for John Deere." Ironically, his wife later told reporters the mower actually worked fine. He just never added gas. 20. The woman who faked a kidnapping to skip work. In Arizona, a woman staged her own kidnapping so she wouldn't have to go to work on Monday. She texted her mom, claiming she'd been abducted by strangers, then tied her own hands with a phone cord and waited for police to find her. When they did, her story unraveled faster than her fake knots. Detectives quickly realized there were no signs of a struggle, except maybe with basic logic. When asked why she did it, she said she was tired and needed a break. The police called her the least convincing victim in history and charged her with filing a false report. Her boss later told the press she could have just called in sick. The incident became local legend, inspiring her co-workers to nickname any no-show employee our next kidnapping victim. She didn't lose her job immediately, but let's just say her career got permanently tied up after that stunt. 21. The man who tried to rob a store with a watermelon on his head. In Virginia, two men decided to rob a convenience store but forgot one key detail: masks. So they improvised by hollowing out watermelons and wearing them like helmets. They even carved eye holes. Security footage shows them waddling into the store, slipping slightly on the tile and demanding cash through fruit-muffled voices. The clerk, unable to take them seriously, called 911 while laughing. Police found them minutes later, still wearing their melon disguises. They were charged with robbery and public intoxication because, of course, alcohol was involved. When asked in court why they used watermelons, one replied, "It was eco-friendly." The judge called it the most biodegradable crime of the year. Photos of the melon-headed bandits went viral, proving that sometimes the line between genius and juiced-up stupidity is thinner than a rind. 22. The woman arrested for throwing a burrito at her boyfriend. In New Mexico, love turned spicy when a woman was arrested for assault with a burrito. According to police, the couple began arguing in a parking lot when she hurled her half-eaten burrito at his face. With great force, the burrito exploded on impact, leaving refried beans splattered across the man's shirt and his dignity. When officers arrived, she claimed she was just sharing her dinner aggressively. The police report noted, victim smelled strongly of taco seasoning. She was charged with battery, while the burrito was entered into evidence. Cold, tragic, and still technically delicious. Local media dubbed her Señora Salsa. In court, her lawyer argued it wasn't a weapon, but a soft food projectile. The judge disagreed, reminding everyone that anything launched at 40 miles per hour can count as assault. The relationship ended, but at least nobody went hungry. Somewhere, Taco Bell probably considered sponsoring her legal defense. 23. The man who got arrested for feeding pigeons. In San Francisco, a retiree was fined and then arrested after repeatedly feeding pigeons downtown, despite dozens of warnings. The city had posted signs everywhere, "Do not feed the birds," but he considered himself a champion of avian rights. Each morning, he'd sneak to the same park bench, armed with bags of breadcrumbs in rebellion. When authorities finally caught him, he shouted, "You can't arrest kindness." Turns out, they can. Feeding pigeons is technically a public health violation due to droppings and infestations. His arrest photo, smiling proudly while holding a loaf of bread, went viral. Locals now call him the Birdman of Market Street. Ironically, the jail cafeteria served chicken that night, proving karma has a wicked sense of humor. When released, he promised to stop feeding pigeons, but later admitted he still slips them a little bagel now and then. Some habits just won't fly. 24. The guy who tried to fake his death with a Photoshop fail. In Florida, a man facing court for unpaid child support thought he found the perfect solution: fake his own death. He submitted a doctored death certificate that he'd made in Microsoft Paint, complete with Comic Sans font and spelling errors, including official and certificate. The judge wasn't impressed. Investigators traced the document back to his laptop, where they also found search history gems like "How to look dead legally" and "Can you die temporarily?" When arrested, he told police it worked on Facebook. He got an extra 6 months in jail for fraud and obstruction. His ex later told reporters, "If he put half as much effort into parenting as pretending to be dead, we'd all be fine." Moral of the story: if you're going to fake your death, at least spell death correctly. Photoshop may save a selfie, but it won't save your freedom. 25. The man arrested for stealing a police car to deliver pizza. In Michigan, a pizza delivery driver's car broke down during a shift, so naturally, he decided to borrow the nearest available vehicle, which happened to be a parked police cruiser. He took it for 2 deliveries before officers noticed one of their units speeding through town blasting Bon Jovi. When they pulled him over, he calmly explained, "I was just trying to make it before the pizza got cold." The officers were not amused. He was arrested for grand theft auto and impersonating an officer. The kicker? The customer still tipped him. One even said it was the fastest delivery ever. In his defense, he did technically protect and serve pizza. When asked later if he regretted it, he said, "Yeah, but those deliveries got 5 stars. Domino's missed a golden opportunity for an ad campaign. You order, we deliver, even if it's from jail." 26. The woman who tried to pay with Monopoly money. In Georgia, a woman shopping at Walmart attempted to pay for over $1,000 worth of electronics using bright pink Monopoly money. The cashier thought it was a joke until she insisted the bills were special edition currency backed by the government. When police arrived, she doubled down, claiming, "The president said all money is valid if it feels real." She was arrested for forgery and fraud. Officers later confirmed her wallet contained both fake bills and a get-out-of-jail-free card, which unfortunately didn't work. During questioning, she reportedly said, "Well, I figured it was worth a shot." The story went viral, inspiring memes captioned "Inflation's getting wild." Her mugshot smile said it all, part pride, part regret, and part, maybe I should have used the blue bills. If capitalism ever collapses, she'll be the first person ready for board game economics. 27. The man who called the police. Because his weed wasn't good enough. In Louisiana, a man called 911 to report that his dealer had ripped him off. He complained that the marijuana he bought was low quality and smelled like oregano. Dispatchers thought it was a prank, until he insisted on meeting officers at a gas station to test it. When they arrived, he proudly handed over the bag, which indeed smelled like oregano. The officers thanked him for the evidence and promptly arrested him for possession of a controlled substance and public stupidity. When asked if he had anything to say, he replied, "Yeah, but it still should have been better weed." His call recording became a local radio favorite. The sheriff later said, "We appreciate his honesty and hope other criminals follow his example. Somewhere, a drug dealer is still laughing, and a chef is missing some spices. And that's it. 27 reasons proving that jail isn't always for masterminds. From burrito brawls to bush battles, humanity never fails to turn stupidity into a full-time job. Which one deserves the crown for dumbest arrest? Drop your pick in the comments. And remember, if you ever think, this sounds like a good idea, it probably comes with handcuffs.